If there was one fee out of all the many fees that we have to pay in this country, if I had to pick one to wear the bullshit costume for Halloween, it would be the HOA fee, because I just don't understand its purpose. But we're gonna let Bob Invest tell us what's going on. It's been a minute since I watched one of these videos, so without further ado, make sure you like, sub to the channel, and let's get straight to this video.
Imagine you have just bought your dream house. You worked for
Right.
10 years to save the down payment. You sign the mortgage. You hold the deed. You think, finally, I am the king of my castle. I can do whatever I want. The next day, you decide to paint your front door a nice shade of blue. You spend the afternoon painting, feeling proud.
Something I would do.
3 days later, you get a letter in the mail. It is not a welcome card. It is a fine for $100. It says your blue door is non-compliant with Section 4, Paragraph 12 of the Community Bylaws. You ignore it, thinking it's a joke. A week later, another letter. The fine is now $500. A month later, a lien is placed on your house. 6 months later, you receive a foreclosure notice. You lose your house, your entire asset, because of a bucket of blue paint. This is not a dystopian
That is
fiction.
fucking ridiculous.
This happens every day in America. You thought you bought a home, but you actually just bought shares in a corporation run by your neighbors. And that corporation has the legal power to seize your property, dictate your lifestyle, and drain your bank account. This is the HOA nightmare, and it is the fastest growing form of government in the United States, yet nobody votes for it, and everyone pays for it. My name is Bobby, and I spent the last 6 months auditing the bylaws of homeowners associations to understand how a system designed to protect property values morphed into a predatory scheme that extracts billions of dollars from homeowners while stripping them of their property rights. If you are someone who is house hunting and thinks the HOA fee is just a minor annoyance, or if you are currently fighting with a board member over the length of your grass, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we are going to expose the private government trap. We are going to calculate the special assessment risk, the true cost of compliance, and why buying a home in an HOA might be the riskiest investment you ever make. Here's the thing about the HOA model. It is based on a lie. The lie is that strict rules protect property values. Real estate data shows that this correlation is weak at best. What protects property values is location, school districts, and economic growth. What HOAs actually do is create artificial friction. They create a layer of bureaucracy between you and your asset. When you buy a non-HOA home, your only obligation is to the city, taxes, and the bank, mortgage. When you buy an HOA home, you add a third master, and this master is often incompetent, emotional, and vindictive. You're handing over control of your largest financial asset to a volunteer board of people who may have zero experience in finance, law, or management, but who have a lot of free time and a desire for power. Let us dig into the monthly fee illusion. You see a house with a $300 monthly HOA fee. You think, okay, I can budget for that. But that fee is not fixed. It is variable, and it only goes one way, up. HOAs are notorious for underfunding their reserves. They want to keep fees low to attract buyers, so they ignore the roof, they ignore the pool, they ignore the roads. Then, 10 years later, the roof collapses. They have $0 in the bank, so they issue a special assessment. This is a bill you cannot refuse. It might be $10,000. It might be $50,000. It's due in 30 days. If you can't pay it, they foreclose. I have seen entire condo complexes where every owner was hit with a $100,000 assessment because of structural neglect. It wiped out their equity overnight. The monthly fee is just the subscription. The assessment is the bankruptcy event. Now look at the compliance tax. This is the hidden cost of following the rules. The bylaws might say you have to power wash your driveway every 6 months. That's $200. They might say you can only use a specific type of mulch. That's $500. They might require you to replace your mailbox with a community-approved model that costs $400. These are micro taxes. They don't appear on your mortgage statement, but they bleed your cash flow. You're constantly spending money to maintain an aesthetic that you didn't choose. You're paying to conform. And if
You see, this is why getting a apartment is becoming more and more desirable at this point, because when you start to just look at all of the red tape in your way when it comes to buying a house, it's like, all right, yeah, you bought this house, but you likely got a fixed 30-year mortgage, so you don't own it until you pay it off. It still belongs to the bank. And in conjunction with that, you got to pay property taxes. And then don't let you be in a subdivision where they have HOAs, because now you got to pay that. You got 3 different fees that you got to pay. That's crazy. You don't got to deal with all of that with an apartment. Yeah, you don't get anything when you move out or whatever, but I need that. I like that flexibility of just being able to know that I can get up and go when I feel like it. When, my lease is up, all right, I move on. But when you buy a house, you almost have to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to live in this place for X amount of years because I got to sit on it. I got to stay here until it builds enough equity. So if I do decide to leave, depending on the market, I can make my money or make money off of it. But that's an up and down game that you playing when you buy a house. You know what I'm saying?
try to save money by doing it yourself or skipping a step, the fines kick in. The fines are pure profit for the HOA management company. They're incentivized to find violations. They send inspectors with rulers to measure your grass. It's a police state funded by your own dues. And we have to talk about the foreclosure power. This is the nuclear weapon. In many states, an HOA can foreclose on your home for unpaid dues or fines, even if you're current on your mortgage. Think about that. You could owe the bank $300,000 and be paying perfectly. But if you owe the HOA $2,000 in fines for a wrong color fence, they can sell your house on the courthouse steps to pay the fine. The bank gets paid off, the HOA gets paid, and you lose your equity. You lose your down payment. You lose your home.
That is fucked up. That is some real snake grimy shit right there. You know what I'm saying? That you're going to basically force this tax on me. I don't give a damn about the pool. I barely go to the pool. I don't need you to cut my grass. I can cut my own grass. I should be able to customize my home the way I want it to look. You know, if you go around Georgia, Atlanta, Dunwoody, East Point, some of these, inner Atlanta cities, all of these houses look the same, man. This cookie cutter approach to these homes, they all look the same. Like, they may look different, but it's all of them have the same color scheme, same front, maybe just a different ornament or just maybe a different door texture, but they all look alike. Nobody has any individuality to their home. You know what I'm saying? Because they probably got HOA. They got to be in compliance with the rules. So they can't even give their home its own personality. Like, who the fuck wants to? I'm good.
It's a disproportionate punishment. It's like getting the death penalty for a parking ticket. And because the foreclosure process is non-judicial, meaning they don't need a judge in some cases, it happens fast. You can be homeless in months. This brings us to the shadow government aspect. HOAs are private corporations, but they function like governments. They levy taxes, assessments, they enforce laws, bylaws, and they police the citizens, inspections. But they lack the checks and balances of a real government. There's no Bill of Rights in an HOA. You sign away your rights when you buy the deed. They can restrict your freedom of speech, no political signs. They can restrict your assembly. They can restrict your right to rent out your own property. If you lose your job and want to Airbnb a room to survive, the HOA can say no. They can force you into poverty by denying you the ability to monetize your asset. You are not the owner. You're a shareholder with non-voting stock in a dictatorship. Let's look at the resale drag. HOAs can actually hurt your ability to sell. If
Mm-hmm.
the HOA has pending litigation, which is common, banks won't lend to new buyers. Your buyer pool shrinks to cash-only investors who will lowball you. If the HOA has high delinquency rates, neighbors not paying dues, banks won't lend. You become trapped in the house. You can't sell it for what it's worth because the HOA's financial health is toxic. Your asset's liquidity is tied to the financial responsibility of your neighbors. That's a terrifying systemic risk. You're
So if
co-signing
they
a
not
loan
paying,
with
you
50
you fuck
strangers.
basically.
Now, you might be thinking, but Bobby, I don't want my neighbor to park a broken RV on his lawn. HOAs keep things nice. And yes, there is a value to curb appeal, but there's a middle ground between Mad Max and Stepford Wives. Most cities already have ordinances against junk cars and tall brass. You pay property taxes for code enforcement. Why
Right.
pay a second tax to a private company to enforce rules that the city already enforces? The protection argument is largely a sales pitch to justify the fees. You're paying a premium for a level of control that yields diminishing returns on your property value.
Right. Because, the way, if people are waking up and they're really wanting to get into, real estate and stuff like that, or if you just come across somebody who's interested in buying a house, a lot of people will, in my opinion, stray away from HOA homes with these fees, because they already know what comes with it. You know what I mean? So that too can also help you, not help you, but hurt you um, in that regard when trying to sell your house. If people know you got HOA and they're not really with that, that's going to shrink your buyer pool.
So how do we avoid this nightmare? The best move is to buy ungoverned. Look for neighborhoods with no HOA. They
Right.
exist. They're often older, established neighborhoods. They might have a few eccentric houses, but they also have freedom. Your property value in these areas is driven by the market, not by a board meeting. You keep 100% of your control. If you want to paint your door blue, you paint it blue. If you want to rent a room, you rent a room.
Right.
If you must buy in an HOA, because new construction almost always mandates it, you need to perform extreme due diligence. Don't just read the listing, demand the resale package. Read the meeting minutes for the last 2 years. Are they fighting about money? Are they talking about a new roof? That's a red flag for a special assessment. Look at the reserve study. This is a document that tells you how much cash they should have versus how much they actually have. If they're only 20% funded, run. That means a massive bill is coming and you will be the one holding the bag. Also, interview the neighbors. Ask them, is the board crazy? Do they fine people for stupid things? The neighbors will tell you the truth. If they roll their eyes and tell you horror stories, listen to them. Don't think you'll be different. You'll be the next victim.
Right.
Finally, get involved. If you're already stuck in an HOA, you can't ignore it. Apathy is expensive. Go to the meetings, run for the board. The only way to stop a tyrant is to become the government. You have to protect your investment from the inside. It's boring work, it's thankless, but it's the only way to ensure that your monthly fees are actually going to maintenance and not to a lawsuit against a neighbor who planted the wrong flowers. The HOA nightmare relies on your assumption that someone else is taking care of it. But in an HOA, nobody is taking care of it. The management company is taking their cut, the board is on a power trip, and the infrastructure is decaying. You are the one who has to pay the bill. We have to stop viewing HOAs as an amenity and start viewing them as a liability. They are a risk
Right.
factor. They are a variable cost. They are a threat to your property rights. When you buy a home, you want to be the lord of the manor, not the tenant of the board. If this video made you want to check your HOA's reserve fund, drop a comment below. Tell me the most ridiculous fine you have ever received.
All right, that's going to be the end of the video. I never actually had a fine or anything like that, but this does give me some good insight. And it just confirms my decision in never really wanting to buy a house unless it's a property like one of those older properties that was built maybe in the 1920s or in the 50s when, there was no HOAs going on like that, and I can just buy it and fix it up and then rent it out, you know what I'm saying, and have it dressed the way I want it to look. Like, this is ridiculous. This is part of the problem in this country. Nobody talks about them HOA fees. Like, they need to be abolished as far as I'm concerned, because it's unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? People should be allowed to have their door whatever color they want, cut their grass, things like that when they feel like it, and have their yard the way they want it. You know, if they want to put a garden back there, you shouldn't tell me I can't. Or if you want to put a fence, it's ridiculous. It's really, really ridiculous. But y'all get down in the comments. Y'all let me know if y'all got a home and y'all got to pay the HOA fees. And if you do, you know, have you ever ran into anything like this where you had to pay a fine or something like that? Y'all let me know. If you made it to this part of the video, as I always say, I appreciate you. It means a lot to me that y'all be watching these vids. You know what I'm saying? We got us a little tribe going and all that. We running it up. Make sure you like, sub to the channel. And until the next video, it's your boy Robbie. I'm out.